Hello, it's Pris, and I felt like the Lord wanted me to share some of my experience. Let's see, it'll be 34 years almost ago that I went through in order to encourage you for the days ahead, or those that are, going through this stripping kind of process now. All right. When, let's see, I'm trying to think year-wise. It was 1991 when I had to move home with my mother, who's into witchcraft, with my 12-year-old son, because my husband divorced me. He was being unfaithful. Some of that was because I was sick and not getting better, and I didn't know what was going on. I had a virus. Now I realize it was probably the Fauci leaked virus from back then, and I couldn't work. There were a lot of things I couldn't do because I was just exhausted all the time. It's like really intense immune insufficiency. And at one point, I did go to a doctor. I had Medi-Cal that I applied for after the divorce, and this doctor was an immunologist doing research on chronic fatigue, and he said in the report that my T cells were low and my killer cells were borderline. Killer cells are what fight cancer. So this was not good, and it was like if I did anything, I'd be really exhausted afterwards, but I could, if I rested enough, then maybe I could do some activities of daily living. And even at that time, I had started doing a food box ministry through the Foursquare, allowing me to use their card, to go to the food bank and to help my neighbors. But this was a really hard time, and I had to leave my furniture behind that I had from my mom helping me out when I first got out on my own, my foster mom. So I didn't have anything except what I could fit in the small car, and it was really a miracle that I even had a car. The church that I was going to at the time, a vineyard up in Thousand Oaks, gave me the car, and the very same day they finally gave us the car, before I left my husband, we got a check in the mail that we didn't even expect from IRS, and it was just enough to pay for fixing the car because it needed some fixing, okay? These days you can't even fix a car for less than a couple thousand, so except single items, but a lot of the cars are really expensive. So at any rate, at that time, then I moved in with my mother, and she had a large room for herself, and she was handicapped. She had lupus, so for many years, and was really into witchcraft, new agey stuff, even taught a Bible study at the Catholic Church, which is like mind-blowing to me at the time. But at any rate, I was able to help her a little bit with the house cleaning, things like that. And my son and I slept in this big, huge bed in the single bedroom, which was pretty small. And I won't go into all the spiritual things that we went through living there. I just want to talk about the finances, because when you start losing things and unable to cope with things, our tendency is to really panic, and because we want to be able to take care of ourselves and everything. But at any rate, after a year, she died, and in the meantime, I had to sell a few things. We had to give up the dog I had just given to my son for Christmas because the apartment manager wouldn't let us keep it. And that was really painful. Really, really painful. And for my son. So I ended up getting cats at the time, to help replace the wonderful love that comes from a puppy. Anyway, when she died, I thought, how we're going to be homeless. That's what I thought, is we're going to be homeless. And I had to call the housing authority for Orange County because they had to know, that she died. And much to my surprise, they said, because you've helped her, you inherit her account. And I was shocked. And I was like, oh my gosh, here I'm worrying so much, and we're going to be able to stay. We're going to be able to stay in this place. And so for the time being, we did. But then they had us, we moved. I'm trying to think why we moved. I honestly can't remember why we moved, but we moved to apartment 1 from her place, and that was good because we were experiencing all these what some people would call poltergeist. I know as demonic activity in that apartment after she died. And so when we moved to apartment 1, we both had equal-sized bedrooms, and there was a big living room, kitchen, whatever. And I had to find furniture. I didn't want to use all my mom's furniture because of infestation, with the demonic realm. And I had to bury some things, like her rings and stuff. The Lord told me to bury them, just like they had to do in the Old Testament. And I didn't know how we were going to survive. And God provided a couple people who gave me a couple $100 a month, so I had $400 to live on besides housing. So I couldn't pay this $900 bill that I'd accrued. I couldn't do a lot of things, but sometimes we got food from the food bank, when I did it for the people here. So not quality food, it's not organic or any of that stuff. I didn't even know that much about at the time. And then God provided in ways that were surprising to me. I went to a fellowship up in Glendale at one point, and that night somebody mentioned that somebody across the street had a couch and a chair that they wanted to get rid of, and the home that it came from were missionaries. And so that was wonderful. And the people that I came with happened to have a truck. And so they were able to, the people in the group helped move that furniture into the truck, and then my friends helped move it into my apartment so that I could have that furniture. And gradually, little by little, there was, more and more provision like that. Or I learned how to go to the 99-cent stores, or the what do you call it, the places where people dump their stuff to be resold. And there was a Baptist shop like that in town, and I was able to get lamps and a couple other things, that we needed for that. And then little by little, there were changes, and I was able to when I did the food bank stuff, to not only give to other people, but there were sometimes things like laundry soap and that kind of stuff, that is a big help to have, as well as the food. And throughout all this, I had been in exhaustion and pain a lot. So it was usual for my son to come home and find me lying on the couch. And I would spend a lot of time in worship because I had time laying around to do that. And sometimes I would dance with the girls that would come to visit in the apartments. They would come because Dave would have his couple of friends over, and they hung out together, and so that attracted the girls to come. But I also did a Bible study for children in the apartments, and that was wonderful. Mostly Hispanics, and the Holy Spirit just showed up for those kids. I mean, he gave me ability to speak to them in language they could understand, and they accepted the Lord. Many of them manifested Holy Spirit with fire in their hands, like their hands would get hot when I prayed that they'd receive the gift of the Spirit. So a lot of them had healing gifts. And it was just a very extraordinary time. And then suddenly, after 9 years, I think it was around, 19, it was just before 2000. Some guy who saw my prophecies on this website was told by the Lord to support my ministry. And he sent me a check for $1,000, and a friend of mine had just asked me to go to Belize in Central America on a 2-week trip. Was it a week or 2 weeks? Gee, I can't even remember now. I think it was like a week and a half, something like that. And I gave $100 to a minister in India as a tithe, and then I was able to go on the trip. And I just knew to say yes to her. It was a Holy Spirit thing. And at that point, my son was older, and he could handle being on his with it, just on his own. And so I went on that trip. And when I got back the next month, this donor gave me $5,000. And I was like, whoa, Lord, I can get off housing. I can, support myself on that, with that, and I had so much fun at Christmas being able to give gifts to kids in the apartments and stuff. And I was still doing the food program, and I always had a helper. God always provided, like one of the Mexican guys with a truck would help me to go get the boxes, and I would work on the boxes that day and getting them in order so everybody had some of everything, and then a couple of days I wouldn't be able to do anything because I was so tired, because that's what this sort of AIDS does to you. And I didn't have AIDS, but I definitely had immune deficiency and didn't have a lot of strength. So it was a really amazing time, and to even be able to go to Belize, given my condition, was an extraordinary thing. Well, things grew, and he continued to give. He gave me a 20. At that time, I didn't have a car because the other one had died, and I'd had one given to me, but that one was also a death store. Old cars, And then he gave me a car. And not only did he give me a car, the next month he gave me money for a car for my son. So he could work and go to school on his own. And so God really blessed me amazingly. And then he sent me to India, and then to Russia and Bulgaria and Romania on a trip. And at the end of that trip, I got to go to Israel for 4 days because I had friends there who were so kind in letting me live with them while I was there. And that was 2003. So I'm sharing this to let you know that there's nothing God can't do. He did such miracles for me. Now, when I came back from the last trip, which was 2003, I went 3 times to Russia and a couple times to India, once for a month and once for 3 months, and then a month in Russia. So, in the Far East. And it was just an amazing time for me. I had always wanted to go to nations. I was always interested in other cultures and other people. And so he blessed me so much, even though I went through so much. And part of the so much that I went through was because I had demons myself, and I needed to get free of the Freemasonry demons and the inherited stuff from the abuse in childhood. And God, during that time, also sent me my surrogate mom, I call her now, Judy, who would come every week for about 4 years. She's a licensed counselor, and she would sit with me and pray with me for a couple hours, and we would to face the pain that I had stuffed down from childhood and all the things that I went through. And there was a lot, because I was satanically ritually abused. And I was MPD. I was DID, they call it now. So gradually through all of this, God healed, delivered, and then there was the Toronto revival, the Florida revival. All those people came out here to California, so I got blessed big time. And so I got a lot of healing and deliverance just in the presence of God during that time. So God is ever faithful to do what he says he's going to do. And he will sustain you even through really difficult times when you don't have much. And he can do it, but you have to look to him to do it. You need to pray, and you need to keep worshiping him. One of the biggest things I learned to do was from a book by Merlin Carruthers called Bringing Heaven into Hell. It's called. You could probably still get it from a used bookstore or on Amazon. Merlin Carruthers, Carrothers, an elderly man, and he had a book called Prison to Praise that made him fairly popular in the Christian community. And he had, come out of prison, and it was amazing how this principle that he taught worked, of praising God even in bad circumstances, even when you're down and you can't pay your bills, even when nothing is seeming to go right. And all this time I was under a lot of witchcraft attacks. So, and because I was kind of praying for people, that were coming out in the church. So you got to keep going and keep believing for God to do miracles. And God can do amazing things that you just can't even imagine. He can provide food. He can provide manna during the renewal years in the 90s. I mean, people were seeing manna fall on their Bibles while the pastor's preaching. Manna would show up. And when he served it to the people like communion, they would get healed. So there's nothing God can't do. He's given me dreams of rebuking toxic stuff off of cities or nations, like radioactivity, that kind of stuff. He's going to pour out glory in the days ahead. So don't give up now. Don't be feeling defeated over all this wickedness that has grown and that is at the door trying to extinguish our lives. Daniel, the book of Daniel, talks about this time, and then there's also Isaiah 60 that you have to keep always in mind, because it's not fulfilled yet. Okay, Isaiah 60, the first verses talk about how deep darkness will fill the earth, and deep darkness the people, but the Lord will arise on you and be seen on you. So keep the faith and keep going, even when you just can't do a whole lot. If you're sick, like with the CVD and all the other stuff going on, keep going. Okay? God bless you guys.